everybody. You're listening to the Comic Book Bears podcast. I'm Bill Zanowitz.
And I'm Steve Morey.
And we are your hairy, heavy homos that talk about comic books, but you don't have to be a hairy, heavy homo to listen in. And we are thrilled to bring back to the show yet again Dave Ebersole. Dave, thank you for coming on.
Hello, fellas. Nice to be back.
We're going to interview you, but we're not going to put you through the ringer with, what were your favorite comics growing up? And, who were your big influences? We already know that. If you want to go explore, look at the past episodes, we're not going to put Dave through that. But the reason Dave is here is he is promoting his Kickstarter for a new Western romance graphic novel, Tommy Dakota and the Shootout at the Burgundy 10. Dave is probably best known as the author of Dash from Northwest Press, which was this amazing mystery noir horror mashup taking place in the 1940s. Dave is also a playwright, and his work has been produced in Philadelphia, New York, and Las Vegas. And we're very happy to have you back, fan favorite.
Oh, am I a fan favorite? I don't know if I'm a fan favorite.
You're one of our favorites, so therefore you are a fan favorite because we are fans.
And we are fans, so.
Was it third-time guest, long-time listener? Or...
Long-time listener, been here before.
Steve, I got that interview baton. I'm throwing it out to you first. Steve, why don't you take us through the start of the interview with Dave, and we'll find out something about this pretty interesting Kickstarter.
Yeah. Well, first, we do have some people who are joining us tonight. So we've got David. Hello, David.
Hey, David.
Hey, gentle folks. And we also have John Westhoff.
Hey, John.
Giving his smiley faces with cowboy hats for some reason.
Cowboy hats.
Awesome.
But yeah, so Dave, I mean, obviously the big thing, and I do want to congratulate you at first, but we will talk about why I'm congratulating you, a lot in the next couple of minutes. But could you give us sort of the elevator pitch, if somebody isn't familiar with the Kickstarter, for your new graphic novel?
Absolutely. It is called Tommy Dakota and the Shootout at the Burgundy 10. It is about this infamous outlaw who takes this job to rob this bar called the Burgundy 10. And he ends up falling for the bartender, who may or may not be involved in the robbery. And that's it's we know that there's going to be a shootout in the title. So it's not necessarily do they make the heist, but do they get out together?
Oh,
that's my elevator pitch for Tommy Dakota and the Sheriff of the Burgundy Ten.
Awesome. Hey, I was having a little bit of some technical issues on my end, but everybody else was coming fine. That is awesome. I just which is always amazing, and I'm really excited for this. I'm a huge fan of Dash, and I love how you're playing with genres that, to me, I'm not a huge noir detective genre fan, and I'm not usually a huge Western fan, but I am definitely a Dave Ebersole fan. So I love Dash. And I love the noir angle of that, the supernatural aspects, the really cool relationships and the detective kind of like gumshoe relationships. I love that. And so I'm really excited to see what is going to happen with sort of a modern sort of cowboy outlaw style, with a heist involved, and of course shootouts, because who doesn't love exciting shootouts involving queer romance, of course. But yeah, so how did just to kind of going back to that, how did you sort of jump onto that type of plot? Like, is there some history of young Dave Ebersole, like watching like Shane or like old Western heist movies and going like this? I want to do this sometime. I want to write something about this.
So the answer to all those questions are no, like not at all. Like I was never a Western person. Like that's not like, and I think one of the reasons I haven't been a Western person is because I haven't been able to see like me in that genre. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, but I've always kind of like this, you know, folky Southwestern kind of like, I love that feeling. I love that vibe. Hell or High Water, Thelma and Louise, like these are like big influences on me, right? Like these like wide open spaces, dusty desert adventures, and I wanted to be involved in it. I wanted to be involved in it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to put myself in it. I wanted to write something where other people could see themselves in it. And right off the bat, where this is different from Dash is a noir, and noir is sort of kind of always looking about like for something that you're missing, like something that's like you don't know. Whereas this, it's a like we say right off the bat, it's a romance. So it's finding something. It's about finding something. And for me, that's kind of been the big difference between writing these two projects. Is I'm excited about writing something where it's not always doom and gloom. Like there's not a monster lurking around. It's like, oh my God, will these people make it out together? And I want these people to make it out together.
Awesome. And that's, you know, it's funny that you mentioned that. It's like, you know, at the beginning you were saying you haven't really had that interest because you really haven't seen yourself represented in that kind of work. And, you know, same thing with me and noir, I could say, and me and Westerns, I could say that same thing. Like it's rare that you would have a queer character, or at least an obvious queer character, not, you know, just coded like they used to do in old Hollywood films. You know, but like an overt out, you know, this is a queer romance. This is a gay romance. And these characters are openly gay. And this is, you know, this is something that is going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, and that's really important, I think, to see that. And, you know, in addition to that, you've got action, you've got, you know, you've got suspense, and you've got, well, heistiness, which again, the one genre that I do love is anything heist related. So I do, you know, like Tower Heist or, you know, Ocean's 11, 12, 13, 5 billion. Ocean's 8, I thought was great too, because of course you're going to make it the gayest Ocean's movie by throwing it at the Met Gala and, you know, a whole bunch of like amazing women. But anyway, but yeah, so tell me a little bit about, before I throw the baton back over to Bill, tell me about your collaboration with Vinnie Rico, with your artist partner for this. Have you worked with him before? And did he come to you about collaborating on this? Did you come to him immediately, you know, to collaborate on this? Is this something that you were like, this is a perfect project for both of us to work on?
It was like really, I mean, first of all, Vinny is amazing. He's my co-creator on this. It's the first book that we're working on together as co-creators. Vinny came into Dash as the he took over the interior art from my co-creator Delia Gable, who's just doing covers there now. And so it's probably, you know, since we're putting out a new Dash this year too, it was probably like the worst idea to be like, hey, Vinny, why don't we work on this other book together? But I knew because the character was Latino. He speaks, you know, a lot of his dialogue is in Spanish. I knew I wanted someone to kind of, you know, because I was writing something where I could see myself, but where other people could see themselves as well. And he was a really good, you know, his insight on this has been, you know, quite amazing. And I knew he could make the character, you know, look and feel like he's supposed to. So he's corrected my Spanish a lot. I don't speak Spanish well. Or barely at all. And he will continue to correct my Spanish. But Yeah, that's where he's so like I just sent him an emoji of like the Snow White where she's just coffee is pouring into her mouth. I was like, so this is you this year between Dash and Tommy Dakota. Vinny is he's going to be so sick of me by the end of the year.
Oh, well, hey, that can be a good thing too. It's It's if he's sick of you, that means that you guys are putting out some good work. So that's
let's hope so. He kind of my pitch to him was so I have this playlist. So Tommy was he was created in a playwriting workshop. Where like we had to create a character, and Tommy was a play. He was a screenplay, and I just couldn't make it work. And then when I finally realized it was a comic, that's when everything clicked. And I had this playlist that I had been creating all along. And Vinny said the minute I let him listen to the playlist, and he said the minute he heard the playlist, he got it. Like he immediately got it. And he said like right then and there, I started sketching. And that's when we knew we had to kind of like, this is the project. This is our next project we were going to work on, including Dash, which we're currently working on.
Well, that is a really good point for me to throw this back over to Bill, because I saw him perk up immediately when you said started as a play, and the playlist as well for the music. And before I do, a real quick comment here from David. Howdy Partners is a better title. But this book looks very good. Howdy Partners. Yes. See that too. Maybe it's a subtitle. Subtitle the subtitle.
Someone said dudes hugging. That's what told me that's what we should have called it, dudes hugging.
Yes. It's all good.
It's all good.
Oh,
back to me?
Yeah, back to you.
Okay. All right. Dave, one thing I absolutely loved about Dash is you write really well-focused female characters. I absolutely adored Cindy and Dash. And in the Kickstarter itself, you've dedicated a good amount of bandwidth on the campaign to Goldie Hesser. So could you just tell us a little bit about that character and how her story interweaves with Tommy and his lover?
Well, Goldie is the one who hires Tommy to commit this robbery, and I really want to reveal what the robbery is, because there's way more to the Burgundy 10 than what meets the eye. So it's not like they're holding up the Burgundy 10 to get the loose change in the drawer from this dive bar. But I have been advised not to, because I have been advised not to give away everything about the story. So I'm just going to say there's more to the Burgundy 10 than meets the eye, and Goldie wants it. And she's put out the word. She's hired the most infamous outlaw she can possibly find to commit this burglary, commit this robbery with her. There's this amazing panel of Tommy and Goldie behind a table, each holding guns, which is like a little bit of a taste of what our shootout is going to look like. So she's kind of, if I had to say, she's our femme fatale of the whole story. You don't really know whether you should trust her or you shouldn't trust her, and I can't really say more. But there's another female character that's coming up that we're going to introduce in the next week that I really can't talk about, but she's going to kind of be the heart and one of the hearts and souls of the book. I love writing female characters. I don't know why. I've always loved writing female characters. I have some amazing women in my life who influenced me so much. So a lot of this is an inspiration. A lot of those characters are inspired by them.
All right, cool. And something that sets this apart from other projects, there's a few in the past, like Witchblade and Tom Morello's Orchid. I always say orchid. I don't know why the hell I do that. Orchid.
It looks like it, doesn't it? Like
yeah. I think it's. I guess sometimes there's words you just mispronounce throughout your life, and it just never stops. Anyway, what your project does have in common with those is it has a theme song, and I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about how that came about.
Sure. So like I said, I had a playlist going, and everyone from Mark Broussard to Dolly Parton, Patty Griffin, even some Corey Taylor, going on in there, some Chris Isaac, but one of my favorite artists that not a lot of people know. I guess he's an indie artist. He's a queer punk rock piano player named Mike Maimone. And he's one of my favorite artists. And as this project was like developing and it started looking like it was going to have legs, and I'm like, oh my God, we're really doing this Kickstarter. Like, oh my God, we're really doing this. I reached out to him. I said, hey, do you want, this is the project. I think you'd be a really good fit for it. Music is one of it's one of the things that inspires me to do everything, to write, to direct, to create. I just can't do it. I wish I could. But he was such a big inspiration to me, and especially with this project. And so I reached out to him, and he actually got back to me. He was like, sure, I'll do it.
Awesome.
Just email me. And then I emailed him, and then I didn't hear from him for like a week and a half. And I'm like, oh my God, he was just like putting me off. And then I realized the email was in my spam folder.
Uh-huh.
And I quickly emailed him. I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. So I've been like kind of like personally fanboying out because I'm such a big fan of his. But he did such a wonderful job. Like he asked me for some song references, so I gave him 3 of his songs, and Mark Broussard song and a Patty Griffin song. Mm-hmm. And he took it, and and he's one of our rewards. It's an exclusive song from Mike. You can only get it on our campaign, and it's the Tommy Dakota theme song.
Awesome.
Now, for a second there, I was like, wait, he's one of the rewards? Like, if you get a high enough tier, you actually get to take him home? Is that like a... I don't know what the UPS rate is to send a whole country singer through the mail, or a punk piano player through the mail, but,
I have seen like Kickstarters where I've never done this before. Like, I mean, Dash was a Kickstarter, but like Zan Christensen from Northwest Press ran it. So I was just the stupid artist on it. Right. So like I'm now like in the weeds in this. And so, I mean, I've looked at like so many Kickstarters for, just inspiration or what they're doing or what I don't want to do or what I do want to do. I've seen some people like, I'll take you out to dinner for whatever. And I'm like, maybe it's a pandemic.
White Castle.
So since you are in this instance shepherding the Kickstarter, what are some of the, and again, before you came on, we were all kind of commiserating about how stressful some of the reasons.
Everything is dead, right?
Yeah. What are some of the complications or some of the particular stresses that you've encountered in launching this campaign? Because it seems, with Kickstarters, even if things go as well as they can, there's still this overarching cloud over everything. There's a clock, and there's concerns that you didn't misrepresent anything. So I was just wondering what some of the particular stresses that you've been encountering in connection with this campaign.
Well, I've never refreshed one page on the internet as much as I have. And I guess I should say right off the bat, like, thank you to everyone who pledged the campaign. We made our goal in 3 days. And we're we just announced some stretch goals. I've been a playwright, I've been a theater director, I've done comic books. I directed Angels in America, which is like the Lord of the Rings of theater. Right. I've directed both parts of it, I have never been so stressed out. or anxious as I have with this project, because it's you have to figure out so many things, like from like especially international shipping. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, like, I've had some really wonderful friends, Zan being one of them, who's come in with some really like solid advice. So it just from behind the scenes, like just keep, and now it's just keeping it going, just keeping like people interested in it now that it's been funded. And we just, like I said, we just announced some stretch goals with, we're doing a pinup section with some amazing artists. One being Jack Foster, who I think you guys know. And my co-creator on Dash, Delia, she's gonna do a pinup. And so she was like, "Sexy cowboy, where do I sign up?" Is what she said.
That's awesome.
Fellow fan favorite Jack Foster. I know he likes us saying that. So
he's been so supportive, and he's been like, especially in the past 2 days, he's been so just wonderfully supportive and helpful. He's just a wonderful guy, and his art is amazing. And I can't wait to see what he does for this.
I also really appreciate how you articulated why you've never had an affinity for Western, because I'm in the same boat. It's a form of entertainment that has never brought me in. Now with comics, yeah, I've read a couple of good Western comics. The first Lone Ranger from Dynamite, which was sort of like Ultimate Comics. Like the Ultimate Universe Lone Ranger, it had that like widescreen feel, and the Palmiotti and Gray Jonah Hex, with all those great done-in-ones, and to some extent the Sixth Gun I think fits in there, but it's not a go-to for me. So when I first saw the images, I was like, "Oh, God, thank God, there's a motorcycle and it's not horses and carriages." Okay, so at least I can I have that to grab onto. So that seems to me like that's like an incredible challenge to yourself of operating in a genre that you don't have a comfort level with. And when you're in that situation, I imagine you're taking some square peg round hole influences. So I was just wondering if you could comment on that, if I'm actually on the right trajectory here about, taking things from unexpected sources so that you had a comfortable fit.
Ed Brubaker has been like a huge influence for me. He had just had a graphic novel last fall called Pulp, which had like this Western feel to it, which came out like I was writing this at the time, and it was kind of serendipitous, and it was like a huge influence. I've also been kind of getting into his criminal stuff, which I guess I'm late to the party on. The Parker series by Darwin Coke. That's just stylistically, that's kind of like where we took our influence from. Vinnie took an influence from 100 Bullets too. Eduardo Rizzo. We were just kind of sharing images back and forth, and so taking kind of these influences that necessarily aren't Western but are pulpy, right? They're pulpy, and for me, like Westerns, like they're like noir. There's tropes. There's kind of like there's almost like a format. We're throwing a heist into the mix. I was like stressing myself out, and my roommate showed me a Rick and Morty episode recently just about heists.
Oh yes. With the double cross, with the triple cross, with the double cross, with the triple cross. See, yes. I've had to watch that like 5 times to get all of like the
to get all of it.
Yeah, it is great.
I'm like sitting in my room, like, stressed out, and he's just like, just watch this with me. And I watched it, and I was like, why am I stressing? when stressing out about this. So that was very helpful. So it's kind of like it is taking all these like influences that are pulpy, that are sort of Western, kind of, Hell or High Water, like again, Hell or High Water, Thelma and Louise, things that are like kind of more modern. Like, I mean, they're not necessarily Westerns, but they're in that genre. I don't know what else.
There is an aesthetic where there's a lineage, I would say.
Right. Yeah. Crime drama, like, and that's where we've been kind of taking a lot of our influences from, and putting, Tommy in a cowboy hat. All of a sudden, like, everyone's like, oh, okay, all right, that's the Western.
All right, let me throw it over to Steve for some more questions.
I'm just thinking about Tommy in a cowboy hat. That's all I'm really thinking about right now. No, I like how you mentioned that Rick and Morty episode, but it's interesting. I know Bill was mentioning a couple other Western comics, and I know recently I have, I've gone back, I've read a lot of Six Gun and enjoyed that, but also Redemption, which is it's an interesting sort of like post-apocalyptic Western style comic coming out from AWA. And it's interesting. I think this is like the perfect time to have a Western themed or inspired comic graphic novel in this case, because it is starting to, or at least there is the genre there. There are people who are enjoying and looking out for Western style, and especially unique, maybe updated twists on the Western genre, which is pretty awesome. I know you talked about some of your stretch goals, and I actually just wanted to mention, because I did pull up the page, and I to anybody who's watching, I am going to be sharing the link to the Kickstarter shortly, and it will be linked to on the comic book page, Comic Book Bears podcast website and Facebook page. But looks like right now you've got 244 backers with over 21 days to go. You're at about like almost 150% funded, which is
close to that.
Absolutely fantastic. So yes, that's really great. And we actually have another comment here from Christopher Barnes. Concept of the book story sounds really interesting and fun. When I go ahead and put up the Kickstarter website, which I don't know why I'm waiting on that, I'll just go ahead and do that now. And just go ahead and post that on whichever platform you are watching. Definitely go and check it out. The short video that gives sort of the breakdown of the story and examples of the art, it's all up there for you, as well as a description of the different tiers for support. And speaking of tiers for support and stretch goals, do you have any kind of like pie in the sky, wishful thinking, like if we hit some kind of crazy amount, this is what I want to, this is what I'm thinking like we could probably throw into there, and aside from, actual physical visits from certain singer-songwriters.
What do you mean, like how much we're looking to raise?
No, I'm just saying, like if you could have any kind of like if sky was the limit and like the funding went crazy, what would be like your ultimate your ultimate perk that you would offer people? Like if you could, like what would be the ultimate perk?
The ultimate perk? I don't know. Oh my goodness, I don't know. We tried to. We still have 2 left. We have guest starring in the book, and we're trying to make that like, instead of just like us randomly drawing you in the background. I'm actually trying to write like good panels for people to be featured in, and one of my so Tommy is based off of a good friend of mine. He's influenced by him. His name is Carlos. And one of the things that I love doing for people is kind of putting them making them fiction. I don't know any other way of showing someone I care about them other than making them fiction, right? And I actually think like it's really cool that like we have had so many people pledge this level of like being in the book. Like so many people want to be fiction. So many people want to be like I'm in that book. I'm in that book. You know what I mean? So that was the ultimate. I didn't know of anything else I could do other than put people in something and have it get dispersed and have people throughout the world like look at it and be like, oh, look at that person. You know what I mean? That's somebody. That's based on somebody. That the character or at least the look of the character or someone that is somebody, and that's for me that's amazing. That's what's amazing about creating something and kind of being open about your influences. I wasn't about Dash so much. I mean, like some of the characters in there are very much influenced on my great friends. And at first I didn't want to talk about it because I don't know why, because I'm dumb. I'm pretty open. I'm pretty open about it.
Hey, that's me in there. Like, yeah. What am I doing in this book? No, that's pretty cool. I've actually, funny enough, like I've, some friends of mine who have actually ended up, as crowd, people in the crowd, faces in the crowd in certain comics and whatnot. It's always just, it's such a fun thing to see when you can recognize a person that you know in a comic, and also the same for that person to recognize themselves and say like, oh my God, that's me in there. That's really cool. It just it just sort of makes you part of the art, which is always exciting.
I don't think that like I don't know a better way of telling somebody I care about them than being like, hey, I put you in this book. Don't sue me.
That's how I give birthday and Christmas gifts. Actually, I always say, like, here you go, happy birthday. Please don't sue me.
There's a disclaimer that comes with every present. Is that what happens?
Yeah, exactly. It's like some people give gift receipts. I give like NDAs and no, I'm super excited for this. And just out of curiosity, like obviously it is fully funded at this point. With over 20 days to go, so everybody, keep supporting this. This is excellent. Don't stop. But what's your goal for for bringing it out? What's your goal for publication? Like around when you think this will be available for the masses?
Well, we're looking to get into people's hands in November. So once everything is like, everything is done and, we got, I mean, we're working now, we're working every day. We're working on it. Like, this book, I was like, oh, yeah, it's going to be a Western. It's going to be cute. It'll be like a 70-page, one shot. I've never worked on like, like, I feel like I've never worked so hard on something in my life. You know what I mean? Like that's where I'm at on it. And, I can't wait for people to see it. I hope it makes I hope it makes people smile. Like that's what I want. Like, I always say like, someone was asking me the other day, a friend of mine, like how do you write a romance or how do you and I'm like, I don't know. Why are you asking me? And she was like, because you have a Kickstarter that says romance on it. Like, like, oh, I guess I do. And I've always held to this, and I think it's whether I'm directing something, whether I'm writing a play, whether I'm writing a comic or a screenplay, it doesn't matter. I think like once you get the audience to laugh with the characters, then you care about them. If you can't laugh with somebody, I don't really care about you. You know what I mean? That, at least for me. And that's my goal, is to kind of make you smile and make you care about where these people end up.
Awesome.
That was the best advice I ever had from a playwriting class, was if they're laughing, they're learning.
Oh, that's even better than what I said.
Okay.
Pearls of wisdom.
Well, I would say like, in a play, like, if it's a drama, like you like to get the audience to care about the characters. You have to make them laugh, and for a comedy, you have to like show them that there's more to them than than just like
there's something under the surface. Yeah.
Right. You have to get them to care about the person. Yeah, than just jokes.
Yeah.
Even if it's a farce. So
awesome. Well, Bill, do you have any
Yes,
other
I
questions?
Did. Well, first I have a suggestion for an ultimate stretch goal.
Yes.
And if you can see this picture of me, I would say that would be Tommy's motorcycle. All right.
Okay.
Do you mind if I just ask you, since we're on the topic of theater, since we made a transition here, when you were considering the Tommy character as part of a play, how was it different from what this eventual form was?
He wasn't who he is.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't based on my friend Carlos, and he was very boring. He was very boring. And it was going to be like 3 scenes. It was going to be like it could still happen. I mean, I mean, like, there was going to be 3 scenes. It was going to be like, him getting the job, him falling for the bartender, and then like the big shootout at the end, which is kind of like our 3-act structure in this, but there's more to it now. And I can do more with it now than it's comic book. But I will say this though, like I didn't think you could do this in a comic, but like, a lot of it is taking place in the bar.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh my goodness, you could definitely see my theater background in this.
Yeah.
You can see it coming out because I was like, you got to move out of this bar, Dave. You move out of this bar. You're in a comic. You can do it.
Yeah, but it's one set, dude. Yeah.
It's one set,
So that's interesting that you mentioned that, because that was almost what I was prefacing what I was going to ask you, is like, what sort of things do you bring from theater into this particular creative process? Do you almost talked about that as a negative, because you do have a broader palette than you can use, but is that like a comfort thing, or do you? I have a feeling that it might just be how you might be more effective.
Oh, you mean like using like
economy of locale and things like that. Yeah.
I look at like sci-fi. I don't know if I could write that, because it's so many locations and so many and maybe that'll be my next thing, but I don't know if I could write that. I'm kind of so like very, very grounded. And I think one of the things I'm that theater has helped is a dialogue. Because theater is talking, you can make so much stuff happen on stage, but the majority of theater is people talking in a room with other people watching them and lights on them. Right. Yeah. And that's what's helped me the most, especially, believe it or not, with narration and stuff. With this, with Dash, like, it was a very first person narration, and I was struggling with this, and then I found this kind of like, and I realized a lot of Westerns have this kind of like voiceover that like that's not like necessarily associated with what's going on. Like, they're like a disembodied character who's kind of narrating things, and once I kind of found that key to this, that's when I could kind of soar with it. So that's. But theater's definitely helped me, like, of course, you have to pare it back, because like theater, you can just write pages of dialogue and that's what it is. Not with comics. You have to leave room for the art. Okay,
theater question. I've got to ask this. Angels in America, how did you do it? I mean, I saw the show initially in previews. And then I had the original Broadway run, and then I had that like insane wait from, I guess, like March to November, when they actually did bring in Perestroika and repertory, because it was just Millennium Approaches for so long. A good friend of mine played Harper in a production. Now her her schedule was Thursday Millennium, Friday night was Perestroika, and then both Saturday and Sunday they did both shows. And she would say, like, after Saturday's show, she was so exhausted because it's, it almost feels like she kind of felt like it was almost like people who say that if they're in a car accident, they have their life flash before their eyes. It's just, she felt like she lived a lifetime in, those 5 hours, and thank God for the break for dinner.
Right.
And that's a play that is so, which I don't think people would appreciate if they do watch the version that was on HBO of how deftly timed everything has to be in that show. I mean, things have to be like on their mark, like right then and there, or the scene's blown. Roy Cohn can't get up out of the goddamn hospital bed. If some, there's a lot of things like that.
Just to walk off,
So just that is the most ambitious show I can think of. So, how did you get involved in it, and how did you do it? Basically.
It was sort of on a dare.
Uh-huh.
Dave shouldn't submit things to theaters when he's been drinking. Honestly, I mean, I live in the Philadelphia suburbs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of where a lot of people say, elections are decided.
Mm-hmm.
And I've lived it. I've seen like how political like this area can be. And I said to myself, like, I could do this in Philadelphia and get a great audience and wonderful response, and everyone just claps and goes about their day. Or I could try to do it, in the burbs where it's not done, and try to affect some kind of change. Try to. And when we did Millennium Approaches, we did them back to back only once, and it was in 2016. It was right after the election, and everything in the play, we had like so many people walked out, so many people I hadn't thought that was going to happen. Especially because of everything that we were pulling off on stage. We had people flying through the air, people disappearing behind walls, and this the set like turned and whatever. And I didn't realize people. It made me realize the like how prejudiced people really still are.
Mm-hmm.
But after the election, something happened, and the energy of the audience changed, and I felt like people woke up, and people were there to experience it, to kind of be challenged, and to do something about it. And that was my experience with the play. It was life-changing. I don't recommend it going through relationship issues like either, because it's the worst. It definitely it changed my life, and that's why I decided to do it, and that's why I decided to do it here. But just because you got to do something and to affect something, right?
Yeah. Oh man, I'm just thinking like 2000. We're talking about words that were written, for the most part in 1989, and to think in 2016, the phrase "the great work begins" that has such weight to it in kind of a circular fashion. I just admire the hell out of you for doing that, because it's a monumental undertaking.
I don't know if I could ever do it again. Like, people like text me like, in 5 years. Well, I'm like, no, I don't know. Just having just the flying itself, flying the angel through the air and doing all of that. And I wanted to do that because we had the space to do it in, and I wanted to. So we had the Foy, the professional, the people who fly everything in, and there's just so much to it. Everyone was like, "Oh, isn't that so neat for you?" I'm like, "Oh my god, it was so stressful."
Yeah.
We have somebody who just joined. Vicente Rico. With the smiley face cowboy hat. Hello, thank you for joining.
Hey, Vinny. That's my co-creator.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. We I have never seen in person Angels, so that's a goal of my life at some point. So,
well, theater has to come back. Theater will come back. It'll be back. Which has been hard right now. I just like last month, I streamed like 3 different plays off of my website, and it was difficult. I was like I mean, first of all, like just kind of putting it all together, but just trying to put it together and trying to like what was once in a room with people in a room and people watching in a room and the energy in the room becomes something so different. It's also cool and unique and different and also different, but it's a different type of theater.
Yeah. So Steve, anything else for Dave?
No, I think we've done a pretty good job of going from talking about Tommy Dakota and going to Angels of America,
which is pretty
putting on a play like right after the Trump election and also during a pandemic. I think
it's kind of perfect book ending, like AIDS Nightmare and then gay romance. I think that's nice book endings there.
Yes, I would say so.
With motorcycles and guns, yeah.
Why not?
What could be better?
Why not? All
right. Well, Dave, I want to stress to the audience: just because you're fully funded doesn't mean the story's over. And again, there are always these like amazing stretch goals that campaigners instill as things go on. So just if you're watching this and haven't donated yet, you think, oh well, he's covered. Don't take that attitude. You want to be part of a campaign like this. So, so Dave, best of luck to you in the next few days. And again, congratulations on getting the funding. But let's keep flying the flag for what might happen afterwards. In the next, what do you have? About 21 more days?
Yeah, 21 more days. 21 more days.
Great.
And every pledge going forward just helps us like make sure that like we're putting out the best book possible. And I can't stress that enough.
Yeah. All right. Well, best of luck to you again. We're going to put out the Kickstarter links and other information for all of our points of contact. And we certainly hope you'll stick around for the rest of our show. All right.
Do it.
Yay.
All right. So now we're going to transition into what is normally our show when we don't have an interview, and that's talking about current comics. I don't think there's too much news, Steve, right? The big thing was the trailer for Sweet Tooth.
Yes.
That's probably the big thing.
Yes. Another thing that it gave me goosebumps and I started to cry watching a stupid trailer. But that's me. I cry at Hallmark commercials, so whatever.
It's Sweet Tooth. Of course,
I accuse you of being heartless on many occasions, so that kind of amazes me. Yeah,
it's Sweet Tooth. Well, I can play at being heartless, but it is hard for me to hold back tears. But in any case, I think that was the biggest news that, other than Madefire's, spectacular surprise bankruptcy. Although it wasn't so much of a surprise for the people who've been following them.
I don't think there's been new content on there for ages.
I know
Madefire content. Yeah.
I know that artists and writers, creators who had worked with Madefire to put out their work, hadn't been seeing, anything coming back from them, residuals / feedback or anything for months now. So, I don't think it was too much of a surprise for the people who dealt with them regularly or who used the app. But I know one of the big casualties was the Archie app for Archie Comics. But Bill, I liked your feedback on that one. It's like this would be like the 5th time.
Well, the frustrating thing was the previous version of the Archie app. They used to be very judicious about free content, So there was like new free stuff every time, like every week, and you'd buy it. And when they had the transition to Madefire supporting their new app, none of that content traveled. So whatever you had in the old Archie app did not follow. And it will also surprise me that for an app where you think you may have, far more children and teens accessing it for a comic app other than, that it was really hard to navigate. So that always surprised me. Like you'd like read something and then it would like jump like 17 pages, because they've jumbo digests, and you're like, wait a second, they were like in the store and now they're on the beach, and when did they walk out of this? It was really difficult to navigate. So I don't think there's going to be too many flowers on that grave. But
wow.
The frustrating thing with Madefire is some of the content was pretty impressive. The only thing I ever had on there was one of the Batman Arkham Origins. Was initially exclusive to that till they put out a trade, a hardcover. Yeah. So it's actually since I'm not a gamer, I don't know this stuff in and out, but it was the prequel to Arkham Origins. It's what happened right before Arkham Origins. And, it like Marvel's AR. Remember Marvel used to have the AR stuff?
Yeah, vaguely.
It had nothing on that. I mean, it was really impressive, particularly on a tablet. It was really impressive. And it was like, there was some stuff that was like kind of 3D-ish without 3D effects. There was some impressive stuff from a technical standpoint, but from what I understand, there hasn't been any new content on there in ages. And then, as you were saying, Steve, it sounded like a lot of creators were not getting paid. And nothing was being returned when they were inquiring about stuff. So,
yeah, getting new work published. I mean, it's been a while since I think anybody's really been able to get anything published on them either, if they've submitted anything. So, but yeah, I mean, they started out with not web comics, but with motion comics. I think was where their strength was at first, but that kind of didn't go too many places. I know probably some of the big motion comics that they released a while ago and that were well known were, the I think it was the new X-Men had something, or Astonishing X-Men. I know the Buffy. I don't know if these were Madefire, but this was like about that time.
Yeah, these weren't Madefire, but they had the
Buffy season 8 and season 9 were all motion comics.
Was out of Shout Factory. The Astonishing X-Men, the adaptations of the Whedon stuff, and DC had their foot in, but probably the most high profile one was the Watchmen motion comic that predated the movie.
The Black Freighter,
and there's Peanuts, which you can get on the Warner Archive. If people Warner Archive still has, they still have like Superman Red Sun and Batgirl Year One. Like, there's a couple of things that made it to Warner Archive. Jonah Hex never has. There was Jonah Hex. I think you can still buy them through iTunes, but motion comics kind of just it's like DVD audio. It just didn't happen. Ministry. I got a Ministry album on DVD audio. Sounds great, but there just wasn't an audience for his stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go over to the spinner rack, and I'll start as I always do with you, Steve, since you're the lucky charm. So, tell us about something you're reading that you're digging.
Frosted Lucky Charms. They're magically delicious. So,
are you at all Irish?
I have some Irish in me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, a little bit. Scottish mostly. Mostly, Welsh, and everything else just kind of.
I have Irish in me too, but you never know from the last name.
Well, Mick Zanowitz is a very prominent family.
Mick Zanowitz.
County Cork. The Mick Zanowitzes.
My grandmother is from County Cork.
Oh yeah.
Really?
That's the portion of Ireland that she's the portion, the Catholic like it's a steak. That's the
This cut down
that's the
here.
area where she's from. Yeah, County Cork, and
Nice.
she was also Lutheran, which, from what I understand, is like nearly impossible to be Irish and Lutheran. And then everything else on my sides are on the other sides are Catholic. So
Wow.
the Irish wasn't Catholic. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, Lutheran of all things too, because it's like that was
Yeah.
mostly like
Yeah,
Central and
it's
Northern
like
Europe.
it's like
Like the
almost like
Scandinavians were Lutheran.
almost like
and-
impossible, but somehow, yeah. The three Lutherans in Ireland. Well, I'm descended from that.
I just found out that I was mostly Scottish.
Oh,
Cool.
cool. Did you do that
Cool.
23andMe or like swab and put my name in a database? And
My sister did. My sister did.
oh, she did.
Oh,
cool.
Yeah. So I didn't have to do it, but and she's like, we're like Scottish, Irish, and Italian, and it was like, but I Scottish was I didn't see coming.
yeah.
So I was like, I don't know if I should invest in kilts or not.
Everyone should invest in kilts.
Yeah.
Everyone looks good in kilts.
Everyone
it's just
looks
the
good
way
in
it
kilts.
is.
Yeah. Yep.
It is true. But so speaking of Scottish things and kilts and Irish things, I'm going to be talking about Shadow Man, which has nothing to do with any of this. So for those of you who've been listening for a long time, like I and Matt Broussard back in the day, we used to talk about Valiant books all the time.
Every week.
Every week, one of us
Every
would
week.
have a Valiant book.
Every
but- But it's been years. I can tell you right now, it has been years since I've talked about Valiant books. And actually, it's been probably over a year since Valiant's put anything out. Unfortunately, when the pandemic hit, they were one of the studios that really, they shut down a lot of what they were printing and are probably one of the last ones to come back and issue new issues, put out new content. Unfortunately, they had to stop a couple of books that were in the middle of publication. The Visitor was one of them. Several other books were really pushed out. Savage, another one, and Shadow Man, unfortunately, was one of those victims too. This was supposed to come out sometime in the middle of last year. I think last summer is when it was being pushed. But this is the latest volume of Shadow Man. I think it's actually volume 6, counting back all the way to the early 90s with the first Shadow Man. And the last time we had a series from Valiant was about 2018. And that was Andy Diggle on writing duties and Steven Segarra, I believe, on art. And now that Shadow Man is back, it is Cullen Bunn and John Davis Hunt on writing and art duties, respectively. And I have to say, this is a good jumping on. If you don't know anything about Shadow Man, which, if you're not a big Valiant fan, if you haven't been reading it since the 90s or even the 2000s or even the relaunch in 2012, you may not be too familiar with the character. It's Jack Boniface, who is a New Orleans jazz musician who has been, let's say, cursed to carry the Shadow Loa on his back. And the Shadow Loa is a supernatural, but a supernatural being from the voodoo pantheon who allows him to extract vengeance, kind of like a Ghost Rider type character, on evildoers and send them back to the dead side, which is the Valiant Universe's version of the afterlife / hell / nether dimension or dark dimension. So if you're not familiar with any of that, well, guess what? You can pick up issue number 1 and crash course right in the first 5 pages on what's going on. It's a lot of show, don't tell. So you're able to really get pushed right into what Jack Boniface and the Shadow Man can do, as well as some of the very grotesque creatures that can come out of the dead side, and beautifully rendered here by John Davis Hunt with with Jordi Belair on colors. But it's a pretty great story, very quick. introduces you to some important characters right away. One of them being Baron Samedi, who is a very famous figure of the voodoo pantheon as well, sort of the Lord of the Dead, and basically the gatekeeper for everything in the afterlife. And sends Jack Boniface to a mansion where some wealthy white people are doing some stupid shit and trying to break through the barrier to the dead side by using the blood of a summoned creature, which is never going to end well, and nothing good is going to come of that, and a lot of people end up with their skin and faces being eaten off. So, but it's exciting first issue. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, a lot of gore, right away, but it's done very well, very colorful. And also pretty exciting. And of course, at the end of the first issue, it sets up kind of what we're going to be expecting for this new series of Shadow Man. So I recommend it, from Valiant Comics. #1 just came out, new in the stores this week. Yeah, go and pick it up. It's definitely a good one to check out. And if you're interested, you can check out some of the previous books. Again, you don't have to have read any of them to really get this, but there's a lot of good stories in there over the past 10 years, especially since Valiant kind of came back in and had the resurgence. So,
Steve, one of my pickups, I get Valiant, first and second era Valiant when I can for cheap. So I have the last issue of Shadow Man from the second series, the Acclaim, the third series, sorry, because the second was Warren Ellis, and this is Abnett and Lanning. And these are like nearly impossible to find, but if you find them, they're
I don't think I've ever seen them. I don't think I've ever seen the Acclaim Shadow Mans.
Okay. It's some beautiful covers. Spooky, like very Vertigo covers. This one was like a little more action oriented, but been picking those up.
Nice.
Yep. All right, Dave, tell us about something you're reading that you're digging.
I was trying to think of like something really cool and really independent. I'm reading a couple of things, but honestly, the thing I'm like really digging right now is Batman and Catwoman. Like it's satisfying. Like I'm a gigantic Batman fan. As you can see from behind me, like this is satisfying. Like every like Batman nerd love having. Like there's so much going on in the comic right now, which is cool. But like this is like such a good jumping on point, and there's like stuff that's happened in the future and the past, and I don't know if this is in continuity. People they say it's not in continuity, but like what does that mean anymore? I don't know. I'm loving it. I mean, I think it's Tom King's I think it's some of his strongest Batman stuff. And the art by like Clay Mann's like just killing it. He's just killing it. I've only read the first 4 issues. I don't know if there's another one out.
I think 4 is as far as I've gotten. Brian's highlighted it each time out, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So he's here in spirit now through you. So,
yep.
Yeah, no, that's. I mean, I want to have like a cool indie comic to promote, but like I'm like, this is something I'm loving. I'm loving this comic book. I even like put it up on my like shelf over there for when people walk in my room. But then like no one walks in my room because it's a pandemic, and my roommates.
But if they could,
yeah. But yeah, that's what I'm loving right now.
When you can have people in, you will be pointing them over.
Yeah. One thing we did say is the only criticism we had was the titles probably should be flipped as Catwoman Batman. In terms of focus, but I agree with you. It's been fun. There've been moments of Tom King's Batman run where fun didn't really factor in, and this one it feels like he's kind of like chilled out a little bit, I guess, because he's not, the editorial constraints aren't as hefty when it is Black Label, and is it continuity, whatever.
Like, is it?
It's an imaginary story. It's imaginary story. They're all imaginary stories.
They're all.
No, that's made up. The other one is like fact.
Fact. It's all facts.
All right, cool. The first book I want to talk about is we talked a little bit about stuff that did not come out due to the pandemic, and some DC titles were just jettisoned because of it. And one of those was the last few issues of the Sandman Universe version of Lucifer, which is written by Dan Waters with a series of different artists contributing. And the book was written out to issue 25. It was illustrated out to 24 or 23, I think. And then what they did was it was canceled with issue 19, but they did issue this, I want to say like 2 months ago, which is a volume 4, which has the issues 20 through 24 if it had continued printing. And it's a shame that that was the case, because this has some of the strongest Lucifer stories that they've had. What the situation is he's been usurped in terms of having the crown of hell, and he's not taking it very well, as you can imagine. He's a little ticked off, but the way he has the hissy fit is he approaches Destiny. And Destiny has the book, which is the past and the future is all in one, and he decides he's going to write himself out of history. So in doing that, there's a gap, and it's eventually going to lead to a second insurrection in hell. I mean, in heaven, because just like it's an old science fiction trope. It's like the universe corrects itself. Heaven and hell are going to do the same. And one of the stories in here is so good. It's just as good as the best of Sandman and the best of those early issues of The Dreaming, because there is no really strong guiding force in hell. One of the aspects of the devil was that you could, this was like an old wives' tale. If you tortured a cat, the devil would approach you. It's kind of sick, but that was the legend. And there's a story in here, I Am the King of Cats, and they introduced the notion of the King of Cats to the Sandman universe and The Dreaming, and it is such a good, spooky, creepy story. You have other characters that you've been used to. Mazikeen, Matthew the Raven makes an appearance. Many of the cast, from the previous issues are there. The ending is a little bit abbreviated, in that there's this preparation for this new insurrection in heaven, and then, okay, devil's back, we're done. I mean, it literally is like that. You get the feeling like, okay, 25, you got 4 pages, let's just wrap it up. But that criticism aside, this was really, really strong. I was not a fan of a lot of Sandman universe apart from the Books of Magic, and then now the new Dreaming series, which is Shakespeare oriented in a sense. But this was by far the strongest stories that came out of Lucifer. House of Whispers, I could read that 17 times. I'll never understand what the hell that book's about. But this was a very good note to go out on. So Lucifer, volume 4 from, I still want to, oh my God, I just noticed this. When did this happen? Vertigo. When did they do that? Who knew? I thought this was all Black Label. All right, Vertigo. I always said Vertigo's was a comic book death. So, all right.
That's new? That's new?
Yeah, it came out, I want to say, 2 months ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it was canceled, because the comic was canceled, and, they stopped publishing just last year. Like, we're talking
with the pandemic.
Like March, April, May.
And there were a couple of series like Supergirl and the Terrifics and House of Whispers that the final issues were digital only. And
Yeah.
instead of going that route, they decided to collect these and it took a while because I think mainly because 3 still hadn't come out yet. 3 still hadn't been collected, so I think that came out like in September maybe, and then this one just came out recently. So
no, that's actually good. That's a probably a really good decision for their for readers of this too. I remember Vertigo did something kind of similar with the finale of very different circumstances obviously, but something similar with the finale of Fables, where they basically the finale of Fables was a
it was a trade. Yeah, it was a trade. Yeah.
It was a trade. Yeah. Just extended with everything else, and so and that worked out pretty well. And I think this sounds like it, worked out well for them too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if torturing cats is all it takes to bring the devil around, I mean, torture and what cats consider torture are possibly very different things. Because Mavanwi basically feels like I am slowly skinning her alive if I try to give her little kisses. She hates that, and she just wants to get away.
No guest appearance from her today?
No. Oh, no. She tried to get in before we went on. I'm glad you didn't hear her. She was like, "Mah!" Like death wails outside the door because she couldn't come inside.
Maybe because she knew I was talking about this.
She's like, this is torture. I can't come in and get my opinion.
But Steve, I know of your Vertigo love, and for at least that story alone, I think you're going to want to read this.
Well, I read all the rest of Sandman, the Sandman universe, Lucifer. I loved that whole series. It started off a little bit rocky for me, with the sort of the prison of the mind essentially that Lucifer is trapped in. But after it moved beyond that and just sort of went into the idea of Caliban and his first wife and like basically the mother of witches and all that, just kind of like going the Splinter, that kind of like weird sort of intermixed theme that was kind of going through with the Splinter of Sorrow and Suffering or whatever it was called. I thought it was fantastic. It was just really well done. So I'll be picking that up eventually.
Okay, good.
It'll be on my pile. Wow.
Yep.
Well, I have
one.
Left in my
life. Yeah.
I know, seriously.
Yeah, seriously.
I have one, and again, because Dave talked about Batman and Catwoman, the spirit of Brian. I am also going to be invoking the spirit of Brian Bittard and talking about issue number 1 of The Way of X. And this is the Scotty Young variant cover that I was able to pick up at the comic shop. This came out last week and was not exactly what I had expected. I was very much intrigued with it. It's an interesting premise. Introduces some characters in here that I'm not very familiar with. I think the big one there was Dr. Nemesis. I don't know too much about his history with the X-Men or in the X books, but he does make an appearance and may become a little bit more of a recurring theme or recurring character for Way of X. But kind of going back to what Hickman was kind of planning for this entire sort of future of X, this multi-pronged philosophical approach to what it is to be a mutant and what it is to be, part of the Krakoa nation now, and what happens when you can't die because all the mutants can be resurrected at any time if they're murdered, with the exception of what happened in the recent Cross of Swords crossover, where if you die in Otherworld, what gets brought back is no longer the same mutant. But with this one, one of the main characters that's very much defined and has been defined over the past, almost 50 years, has been Nightcrawler, defined by his spirituality. And, it's a massive spiritual crisis for him now that he is surrounded by people who don't really respect life as much anymore because they don't have to. They don't have to fear death. Death to them is almost a game, and they kind of play that up here where the team that he's with, trying to investigate an Orcus or Orchis installation in Italy. They talk about it very openly. It's like, hey, Pixie, when are you going to go and die? It's a lot of fun. You should try it. Like, it's just get it over with. It's not a big deal, whatever. And she does go through with it. Pixie does, basically walk up to a shotgun and say, here I am, just kill me because I got to get it over with. So she could be brought back. And to them, it's a very, or at least to Nightcrawler especially, it's a very dark, horrible thing to have happen, that life has taken on such a, almost a, is a frivolous thing. It's like, it doesn't matter. Like, there's no, we're creating, there's no more mortality anymore. Like, what use is heaven? What use is a God? What use is, anything greater than oneself if you can always just be resurrected? Like, there's no afterlife anymore. Just who cares? And he brings this up to Magneto. He brings this up to basically himself, and throughout the book, which is written by Cy Spurrier, with art by Bob Quinn, who I'm not too familiar with. There are pages that are kind of like journal entries. He's trying to write a new Bible or a new book of mutant kind, and just kind of meditate on the fact of how do you have faith? How do you think of something bigger than oneself when essentially your life is infinite? You have all this power, and you have a future that could go on forever because you can never really die. And it's really interesting. It's very interesting that he's going through, and Cy is sort of writing in the voice of Nightcrawler about this very interesting thing that you don't talk about too much in mainstream comics, or at least not in these big concept kind of ways where it's like, well, what happens if you don't? The X-Men have met actual gods. Like, they've fought alongside Thor. They've seen, they've worked with Hercules, and they've been to the ends of the galaxy and other universes and all of that. So what does that mean for somebody like Nightcrawler, who's kind of the heart and soul of the X-Men? He doesn't really give an answer towards the end of this issue, but it does create some interesting new questions and introduces some new characters and some old characters again that we may not have been expecting to see so soon. So I'd say pick it up. Definitely it's one of the more interesting books for the new X-Men series that have been coming out. Way of X. Give it a shot.
Okay. Now, Dave, do you have anything else?
I'm gonna throw out, and I've only read the first issue of it, but it's Homesick Pilots.
Ooh.
Do you know it?
I have heard of this.
It's from Image. It's this like kind of like punk rock, like haunted house kind of a story.
Steve, we have it in one of those emails we never read.
Oh. And I know that Caleb had talked about it in Southern Fried Geekery.
Oh, did he?
Cool.
Well, I mean, not on this show, but in Southern Fried Geekery before. Yeah. But yeah, definitely, we haven't talked about it here. But yeah, definitely.
So it's brand new for us. So tell us.
Well, I'm gonna give you like that. That's kind of like the elevator pitch of it. But like, just like look at this, like beautiful. Just like look at that's just like a double spread, like just the entire house. It's just like it's so gorgeous. It's so gorgeous.
Yeah,
the light. It's just so gorgeous, and it's one of those things that's on my pull, but I realized like the last two times I've been in, like they haven't put it in my pull because I feel like there's more issues out, and I only have issue 1, and I've been waiting like with anticipation. And I just like haven't. But it's the Dan Waters is the writer, and Caspar Wingnard is I probably butchered that, is the artist, but the art is amazing. The writing it creeped me out. It made me want to rock on, and that's I highly recommend this. I made my roommate read it. I've recommended it to everyone, and I've only read the first issue.
I think I want to say, and let me double check here, but I think there are more issues out now.
Yeah, I think there are.
It is up to looks like issue 5. Yeah,
Wow.
issue 5 is already
Yeah,
out,
really.
but this month. Yeah, so
I'm really
you
behind.
need to talk to your comic shop.
Yeah, I'm really behind.
Get them to give you those 4.
You trade weighted without even intending to. Yeah.
And that's probably true. I bet because it's usually like for Image for the first trade, it's usually like yeah. So that would be, hey, if you can't get those singles, definitely get that trade. It sounds like, but that's pretty good. That's a good recommendation for that.
Highly recommend it.
Okay. Yay. So last night I popped into the chat for John and Tom and their show, and John Runyon, wishes I read more Marvel because he wishes I read more Marvel, and I'm not in that place right now. There just isn't a lot that's speaking to me. And I said, well, hey, he brought up that he got X-Men Legends #3. X-Men Legends takes both creative teams and points in time in X-Men history and presents new stories. I believe is it 6 issues with 2 and 2? Is that how it's working, Steve? Do you know?
I'm not entirely sure.
I have no idea what it is. Yeah, it might be ongoing. I have no idea. So anyway, X-Men Legends 3 came out on yesterday, and I had thought that I had pre-ordered it, and it turns out I didn't. So I lied to John on top of everything. I pre-ordered #4, but I didn't pre-order #3. So I went out to the store after I logged off of work, and I got X-Men Legends #3. And what we have here is the return, as it says right here, the return of the original X Factor. And this is the classic X Factor lineup and the classic X Factor creative team of Louise and Walter Simonson. So it's like seeing old friends, basically. X Factor was all through college for me. It was like it started in '85, and it was like at the midpoint of '89 they started wrapping things up a little bit, and as everyone knows, like within a year and a half was the big relaunch of some of the original members of the team going on to regular X-Men teams. One thing that always appealed to me about X Factor under the Simonsons is that it was a lot more superhero-y than X-Men was at the time, I thought. When X-Men did have some kind of crossover, it felt weird, because they just seemed to be in their own world, whether an extension from the Walkabout or whatever, and it's just the late '80s were very paranoid X-Men time. So this is something very different, like it wasn't unheard of for them to, cross with Thor or cross with Power Pack, happened a bit. It's a very conventional superhero-y story. They make a big deal in the book that this takes place before X Factor #43. And I looked, and X Factor 43 was the beginning of the Judgment War, which involved the Celestials, and I had no recollection of this whatsoever. So whatever, Judgment War, that's what happened. But one thing that did happen in the Judgment War was SHIP, Apocalypse's ship that they eventually became their own headquarters, started acting funky. And this is basically the background involving that, and it includes the big bads, both Apocalypse and Cameron Hodge. I wouldn't exactly say they team up, but something happens where they are working in cahoots. I'll just put it in that fashion. Not a lot of decompression. This definitely feels like an '80s book. Caliban's there too at his most like master, sort of Caliban-y ways, and it was and just like just real nice Simonson art, real nice. And also like a bit of a throwback, because this isn't necessarily the how angular things that he's doing these days, like in Ragnarok. He's definitely drawing like his like a slightly older style of his. And as a 2-issue diversion, I thought it was fun. And it's like seeing an old friend. So I do recommend it. Don't expect a storyline that's going to change your life, but if you do have an affinity for these older comics, this should hit a sweet spot for you. So X-Men Legends #3. Yes, I do read Marvel sometimes. So.
Yeah.
I'm only seeing the tops of shirts, so why don't we just go around with what we're wearing? I think I see BB-8, and I think you might be Tom of Finland.
Yeah.
So Steve, what do you got on?
Mine is a glow-in-the-dark shirt that says "Rollin' with the light side," but when you turn off the lights, it is the Imperial version of BB-8 that's all black with an angular head that says "Rollin' with the dark side."
Ah. So. Oh,
that's.
I wish I could show you with the lights off, but then you wouldn't be able to see anything.
That's amazing.
All right, what filth do you have on your body there, Dave?
Yeah, I'm definitely wearing a Tom of Finland shirt. I figured why not? Just add some spice to the night.
All right.
Why not?
I think I don't think I've ever worn a Tom of Finland shirt. I did wear that Saint Folsom shirt. Steve. Yeah, I did wear a St. Folsom shirt, which is a pretty cool design. My shirt is Dustin's roast beef shirt from season 3 of Stranger Things, but it's the Funko version of the cow instead of the very 80s vibe. So that's what we're wearing.
Nice.
Yeah. And I have to apologize for my hair. I'm like, my beard and hair is like insane. And next week I'm going to get buzzed. I can't do this anymore.
It's the time of year where like
oh God, it was
Bill
so
Buzz
humid yesterday here. Oh my God. It was really humid. Yeah. Yeah. It seemed the temperature came down a little bit. The humidity came down a little bit here. But last night was gross. Yeah, had the air conditioner on like much sooner than I thought we would. Yeah,
I'm holding off. I'm gonna hold off till like I'm gonna be one of those people this year where I'm gonna hold off.
Really?
Yeah, I'm gonna try.
Do it.
I'm gonna try.
You're just gonna be walking. You and the roommate are walking around the house like with towels, just going like, "No, one more day." You could do it just one more day with like the glass of ice water against your forehead. Just like, no.
I don't know, man. I've become a weather wimp.
One of those old wire fans from the 70s, like right next to your face. Yeah.
Wait, so don't tell him this. So no one to tell him this, but like, my roommate is like deathly afraid of bees, and we've had like when we open our windows, like every time we open our windows, like we get like bees, and like we've had like 3 or 4. Like today, he was like, "Help me!" Like. Don't tell him I said this. No one knows. But
no one knows except everyone.
So like all of our windows and doors are closed. So like we're like really it's getting sauna weather in here. So
I'd die. My worst experience like that. One time we brought a bicycle in, and there was a wasp nest that had formed underneath the seat. And so we were looking, and it's like, is that a fly? Oh no, that's not a fly. Yeah. So, yeah, we were stupid that way one time.
You were just kids then.
You don't expect to see a wasp nest under a bicycle seat.
No, you don't. Don't.
Yeah. So
it's a good thing you didn't sit on it first.
Yeah, I sat on a wasp in summer camp one time. And the counselor in training said it looked like a silent film, like somebody like Charlie Chaplin sitting there like jumping up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
Yep. All right. I'm looking at the clock here, and according to Eastern Standard Time, it seems like we should be wrapping up. And when we wrap an episode of the Comic Book Bears up, we do so with a segment we call the Woofs of the Week segment. In the bear community, if you find a fella attractive, you woof at him, and we do something sort of similar. This is where we signify something which doesn't necessarily have to be a comic book. It can be a film or a TV program or a charitable initiative, anything under the sun that we think you, fair listener, or in this case, viewer, may be interested in sampling. We are not nothing if gracious to our guests. So, Dave, we'll start with you. What is your woof of the week?
Well, mine is a comic book, or it's a graphic novel. And I'm going to give you a little story. This was given to me on Monday by my dear friend Courtney, who she just said like it's helped her mental health, and she wanted it to help mine. And it's called "The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse" by Charlie. I tried to look this name up before I actually did, and I'm gonna butcher this name, but Charlie McKeezy. And it's like this, like you can like read the whole book. I haven't read the whole book, but like it's just like these gorgeous like watercolor like these sketches, and you can just open a random like page, and it says like be careful not to fall, like these just gorgeous pages. So this is my wolf of the week, because it's like it's gorgeous, and it's like just looking at it so far has like helped me. So I wanted to say that's my wolf of the week, and thank you, Courtney.
All right. Can you just tell us who the publisher is for that? If you want to go track it down.
Harper One.
Okay. Good. They have a presence.
That sounds
good.
pretty cool.
All right, Steve, let's go over to you. What is your wolf of the week?
Well, as everybody knows, I always do TV woofs. So I'm going to do two very quick woofs and then my actual woof. Two very quick woofs. Starstruck with Rose Matafeo just started and is all available on BBC Three. If you are looking for something to replace Fleabag in your life that's not as vicious and doesn't have a fourth wall breaking moment, Starstruck. It's great. It's fun. It's 6 episodes. It's good. Second one is Shadow and Bone, which just premiered on Netflix last week. We binge watched the whole thing in a day. It's a lot of fun. It is YA. But it's an interesting concept and pretty cool. Great acting. Love the set piece. And for those 8 episodes, they fly by. But my real wolf is for the return of Mythic Quest, which is a show that's available on Apple TV Plus, by executive produced and starring Rob McElhenney from the It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia fame. And it's about a sort of a World of Warcraft like MMO RPG publishing company, and their big RPG that they have, and all of the crazy characters that go into the production of the show or of the game. So you have the lead programmer, you've got the marketing, dark wizard essentially. You've got the HR people, you've got the assistants. Everybody has these insane testers. They have these insane personalities and wild storylines that happen throughout the first season. That's all available now. A couple weeks ago, they came out with a special sort of teaser episode for the new season that wrapped up this past year, this pandemic year. And it was a theme episode where they were having a big party, and it's a big annual thing that they do, where they sort of do a live action role play, and it made me cry. It was insane. For a 30-minute show like that, that's a ridiculous over the wall. If you love Community, if you like, all that stuff, that's what this is. It made me tear up and, openly weep by the end of it, which bodes well for the new second season, which starts in May. So check it out. Mythic Quest, first season is all available, as well as the special 11th episode. And then the new season starts next month.
Okay. My wolf of the week goes out to a couple of toys. You can tell by the beard here and the color of it that I'm old as sand. And when it comes to superheroes, one thing I commonly associate with superheroes almost as much as comic books themselves and Super Friends is the Mego toys that were out in the 70s that I played with and enjoyed and later butchered. You know, some didn't survive adolescence. But Mego reactivated in 2018, and late last year was when they had the first 8-inch figures come out from the new Mego Corporation, and the 8-inch World Greatest Superheroes line was their bread and butter. So we have what is part of Wave 9, but the second wave of the DC 8-inch heroes. So I have a John Stewart, and I have a Riddler with a very accurate receding hairline, which is nice to see. And I have the Flash. Now, you have to understand this, okay? There was a Green Arrow figure that came out in 1975. And I thought, well, okay, they have Green Arrow coming out. Flash at the time had his own comic. They've got to have the Flash like maybe next year. And never happened. They never had 8-inch figures of the Flash or Green Lantern from the original Mego. So though there have been 8-inch figures from Mattel and from Figures Toy Company, there's none with the actual Mego logo on it from the actual company. So I'm holding in my hand something I've literally waited 46 years for. So I don't see how that cannot be my woof. So the latest Mego figures, 8-inch DC characters from Mego Corporation. So it's my woof of the week. Yeah. 46
awesome.
years. Yeah. Now I can die.
I got my Mego Flash figure. That's it. That's the pinnacle. Just clutching it there.
Yeah. Okay, Dave. Again, we've said we've wished our good wishes to you on the campaign. If people want to reach out to you on the interwebs, where would they do so?
They can find me on Twitter at Ebersole. Same on Instagram. And you can find me on Facebook as well. Feel free to throw a friend request. I'll accept.
Okay. And again, we will put up the links to the Kickstarter campaign on our, little dog and pony show sites there. Go over. So I guess we'll just wrap this one up there. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, we are the Comic Book Bears podcast. You can find us on the Twitter and the Tumblr and the Instagram as Comic Book Bears. You can find us on the Facebook as Comic Book Bears Podcast. If you want to write to us, please do so by sending an email to comicbookbears@gmail.com. If you want to listen to us, please download us through iTunes. You can listen to us through Stitcher Radio, and you can catch us on many of the other podcasting platforms. And since you are probably watching this through a live stream or from YouTube, please make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, because we, we'll reiterate this every week till we have 1,000 people there. That, we do want to increase our profile there. So until next time, I'm Bill Zanowitz.
And I'm Steve Morey.
You're going to hear a woof and an explosion. We'll be back real soon. Take care, everyone.
Woof.